Welcome to the Code with Jason meetup. I'll share my screen and get us going. Okay, so we're going to be working on SaturnCI as usual, the continuous integration platform that I've been building for a while. Um, in the last session a few days ago that none of you guys were here for, we made some changes to this filter form. Previously, it didn't have all these different statuses. It just had passed and failed. Um, because a long time ago, passed and failed were the only statuses, except running, I guess. But now there's not started and canceled, and I was finding it increasingly inconvenient to not be able to filter by these other statuses. So I added those. But now there's kind of an issue, especially when I'm working just on my laptop with no external monitor. There's an issue with this list being like too small. You can imagine like if the window is a lot smaller, then it's like, oh, this thing, this form is only useful a fraction of the time. This list I want always, but it's like I can barely see anything. So that's not great. So I decided that I want this form to be showable and hidable. And then once I started thinking about that, I started thinking about something else. I started thinking like, hang on, Um, I have like this frame. The top of the frame is this like gray bar, and the frame kind of encloses the context of a project. So like if I go here, I can see my various GitHub accounts, and inside those accounts, I can see projects. And so like I'm not in the context of a project here. I am in the context of a project here. If I go to settings, I see different stuff, but I'm still in this context of a project. Um, and that's obviously good because I want to always feel a strong sense of orientation. I want to know where I am. That's one of my complaints about CircleCI and GitHub Actions. I get disoriented a lot. But I don't think this like frame is necessary, this like window within a window. I think I can get rid of this left and right border. Um, and so I think I might want to do that. There's just like too many like lines and boxes and stuff like that, I feel. So that's what I want to give a try right now. Okay. So I think I have this thing called project component. Okay. Div class equals project. And I think I have a project CSS. Yeah, okay. So I have this project div, and the only style on it is this border. So maybe let's get rid of that and see what that looks like. Oh, to my surprise, nothing happens. Am I crazy? Just nothing is getting applied at all? Okay, that is surprising. Is something weird going on with my CSS in general? Let's just delete all this stuff and see if anything happens. Yeah, like the CSS changes seem not to be taken up at all. Okay, well, that's kind of annoying. Let's try to figure out how to do something about that. I don't think this makes any difference, but project CSS. I'm going to delete all this stuff just so if the changes start applying, it's completely obvious. All right, I'll restart my Rails server and see if that does anything. Apparently, that's going to take a while to reload. If this doesn't do anything, I'll look at the source and see where it's pointing. Okay, that made a difference. Okay, now if I bring the stuff back, will it change back or no? Yeah, it did. Okay, I don't know what the deal was. Anyway, now that border's gone, but we still have the spacing. So with body, I can probably take away the padding. Okay, interesting. Um, in some ways that looks a little weird to me. In some ways it looks a little better to me. Might take some getting used to. At least try it on for size for a little bit. I'll create a new branch called, I don't know, new layout. Okay. So one thing is for sure, this like menu at the top needs the padding back. So let's fix that. Okay. So we have this header here. Um, maybe we can call this like main header. Oh, we have just header here. Um, I don't think that's the way that was supposed to be. So let's change that to main header. Okay. And I think I actually want margin 0, padding 5 pixels. Let's see how that looks. Okay. That is no good. Let's do 10. Okay. That seems better. Now we have this issue where this has no padding, but we'll address that in a minute. Okay. This looks kind of weird the way it has a bottom border but not a top border. So let's address that. Okay. Actually, would it make more sense? I see project header has a border bottom of that color. Should we do a border top? There, maybe that's more logical. Okay. I don't know if I love the way that looks. It seems a little weird. Um, but it's at least better with the top and bottom border than with a bottom border but not a top one. Okay. I'm gonna save that. Make project component full width. Okay. Hmm. I'm just curious. Um, you guys, Craig, Sanjit, Daniel, and Daniel can reply in the chat if you want. Um, what's you guys' like comfort level with visual design work? Um, if you had to rate your abilities regarding visual design, where would you put yourself?
Very low.
Oh, mine is pretty low, Jason. One out
Okay.
of 10, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm over the last, I don't know, 10 years, I've been trying to build my design skills. I read this really good book called The Non-Designer's Design Book, and it taught me some principles. It has an acronym, CRAP. Um, contrast, repetition, alignment, and proximity. So I'll um I'll point out real quick a few places where I've applied these principles. So contrast, you can see with like this header, for example, and what's below it, um, these fonts are a different size, and this font is bold, and this is not bold. I guess those are the differences. But you can see that like you don't get mixed up between this and this. When your eye falls on this area of the page, it's like you definitely see this first, and then you see this second. That was very much my goal. Um, so that's an application of contrast. Um, repetition. Repetition gives some like uniformity to the design, and I don't have as much uniformity as I would like, but you can see that some elements that I'm repeating are this like 2 pixel darker gray border. That's one. And then this like gray background. That's another. But where I'm lacking repetition and uniformity is I have this darker gray background and then this lighter gray background. And to me, that's a little bit weird looking. So I want to address that, but I'm not sure how. Anyway, contrast, repetition, alignment. Um, so things like if you look, for example, at a book cover, I'm trying to look, or just like any packaging, you'll notice alignment in the design. I'm trying to see anything that I have around that's like that would that would show this principle. I can't find anything. Um, except maybe on my book cover, it was a very deliberate choice to make the subtitle basically the same width as the main title. Um, and I tried to make the main title kind of align with itself. Um, so that's that principle of alignment. So like you can see that these things here align with each other. Like all down this left edge, you can see everything aligns with everything else. I feel like that makes the design look like strong and sturdy. Um, and then there's proximity, which is the principle that things that are grouped together are perceived as belonging together. Um, I don't know, maybe that's exhibited in this form a little bit. Um, there aren't a lot of instances of applying that proximity principle on this page. But one thing that I want to convey is that it's not just arbitrary. And it's not just some kind of like artistic talent. I think artistic talent maybe plays a role, but a lot of it is just objective principles. Um, and so when I'm making design decisions for Saturn CI, I'm trying to keep these objective principles in mind. Um, okay, and you know, I've been reading this book and talking about this book a lot lately called The Beginning of Infinity, and it talks in that book about the concept of objective beauty, which is really interesting because like I for a long time have been like a believer in the idea of objectively good taste. Like there's music that's objectively better than other music. Not a lot of people agree with me. But I think it's true. There are some principles of objective beauty. And because they're objective, I think that anybody could theoretically rediscover these principles. So I think a person can teach themselves design without even necessarily consulting external sources, but just by working it out yourself and just thinking about it really hard. Um, so the reason I bring that up is like, okay, something about this page looks bad. And I feel like that's a common feeling for a developer to like look at a page and think, okay, to me, this page looks bad, but I can't put my finger on why. Um, let's see. Like, I don't know, let's go to some website This page, I'm trying to find something that looks just like really bad. Do you guys know of any bad looking websites? I
eBay.
mean, Twitter has always looked pretty terrible in my opinion. Um, can we put our finger on anything about the design of Twitter that we don't like? First of all, do you guys even agree with me that Twitter doesn't look very good?
I don't
I
think it
think
looks bad.
the
You
the
got
problem with Twitter is we have got used to it being a certain way. So we are not
Hmm.
looking at for
Hmm.
the first time. So we know where to go and look for specific things.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Now, if we are looking at a website we are not familiar with, what helps is if we can sort of if you are intuitively guided to where you want to go.
Right.
It's that principle. They say don't make me think. I remember
Yeah,
I forget
exactly.
the name of the author. It's that type of thing.
Okay, here's a good way to find crappy sites. I'm going to go to this job site and just look at some random company's website. Okay, so
everything's
this,
tailwind these days.
yeah, this page is following like the trendy look of marketing sites these days. And this is interesting. It's maybe not that terrible. Um, but I guess it's kind of different because it's a marketing site. Okay, here's kind of a crappy design. Can you guys think of why I find this design crappy? First of all, when you see this page, where does your eye land?
The big install and sign up buttons.
Yeah, for me, it doesn't necessarily land there. My eye doesn't necessarily land anywhere. Like, there's nothing for me that is like clearly the dominant element
Yeah.
on the page.
No anchor, so to speak, isn't it?
Sorry.
No anchor in particular on that website. There is that YouTube, uh, you know, thing in the middle, and then, as you said,
Hmm.
there is a bit of install on the side. Yeah, what's the website doing? You get slightly
Right.
confused. Yeah.
Yeah, let me grab an example of something that maybe has better design. One sec. Okay, so I have a can here of sparkling water. Where does your eye land on this can?
I don't think we can see the can we?
Oh, oh, sorry, one second. Let me stop sharing my screen. Stop share. There we go. Okay, where does your eye land on this can?
Mason Perrier.
Yeah, exactly. And there's kind of a clear hierarchy. Um,
Yes.
like Sanjeet, what if you just let yourself naturally observe and you think out loud, what do you observe first, second, third, etc.
I think first I see the Mason Perrier logo,
Mhm.
France, and then come down to the bubble, and then see the sparkling water written at the bottom.
Okay. Yeah. And it's like clearly, like there's no question that the first thing they want you to notice is Maison Perrier.
Yep.
Yeah. And you can see some of the principles that I shared earlier applied on this can, like repetition. Everything on this can is either green or silver. So they repeated that style all over in the can. Contrast also,
Mm.
like notice how it says Maison Perrier, and then below that it says France. Notice the extreme difference in the typeface and the size and style.
Yeah, it's first and foremost about Mason Perrier. You know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and above Maison Perrier, it says created by.
Hmm.
It's not that important, but they wanted to put it on there and they wanted you to read it, but maybe not as the first or even second or third thing. So they made that part very small. So I'm always looking at packaging and trying to observe, first of all, do I feel like this is a good design or bad design? Um, and if I think it's good, why exactly? If I think it's bad, why exactly? I'm going to share my screen again. Okay. So again, there's like no focal point on this page. Um, Particularly, I don't know what I'm supposed to read first. You said that thing about don't make me think, Sanjeet, which, by the way, I assume you got that from that book of
Yep.
the title, Don't Make Me Think, which is a great book. This page is forcing me to think. It's like, okay, am I supposed to read this? All in one customer portal, profile orders, loyalty referral, wish list, custom forms, social login. It's like, what? What am I looking at? What even is this page? I don't remember what I clicked on just now, and I don't know what the hell I'm looking at. Install? Install what? Where? If I click on this, what am I getting myself into? To be fair, maybe, okay, so Shopify App Store, I guess this is a Shopify app. So I suppose if I have a Shopify store, I'm going to be familiar with the installation process and all that stuff. But um, to the uninitiated eye, this looks very disorganized. And obviously, there's been a trend in the last 10 or 15 years toward flat design, which I think is one of the great tragedies of the design world. I think things looked so much better back in the days of skeuomorphism, where um whoops, iPhone, no, iPhone, iPhone calculator skeuomorphism. Yeah, like look how much more fun and interesting the Mac calculator was when it looked like a calculator. And now it's flat. Um, the 3D appearance of these buttons created a contrast between the buttons and the background, especially on this really old calculator. Now look at the new calculator. It's not as easy to distinguish the buttons from the background because they don't stick out. And then I think these UIs are nice too. I'm trying to find another decent example. Yeah, like to me, the one on the left, like the one on the right looks so much more jumbled than the one on the left because we don't have these like crisp delineations between one element and another or between an element and the background. Anyway, just kind of trying to share my thinking behind design because I think people sometimes see the UI of Saturn CI and they think that it's not designed or that it has very little design or that the design is not very intentional. The design is very intentional. It just doesn't look the way people expect because the prevailing design trends, in my opinion, are not very good. That's not to say I think the Saturn CI design is great. I'm it's a work in progress, I'm trying to get there. Okay, anyway, having said all of that, how can we take this and make it better? Can we identify anything that we don't like? Um, Let me ask this. I'll call on you this time, Craig. When you look at this page, where does your eye land first? And if you ask yourself the question, what is this? What would your answer be?
I'm drawn to the sidebar of the path tests. Um, I don't know if it's just because the blue one is highlighted or whatever.
Oh, this on
Um,
the right. Interesting.
no, on the left.
Mm,
Um,
this, okay.
yeah. Um, and I kind of get the impression that's not the intention of this page because they're like previous um runs, right? So you're on a run right now, so your focus should be the run, right?
Good question. I do think there's value in clearly seeing, you know, you see that you're on this build.
Mhm.
And so there's no question about where you are. So I think that's not necessarily different from my intention.
Mhm. It could be more subtle though.
Yeah, I think you're right. Um, okay, for me, something that I'm not happy with is just the weird like shape of the page. Like to me, the grayness makes a shape, and it's this weird shape where we have like the top bar, this left form, and
Yeah.
then this big gray area here. Like if you imagine taking away all the text and you just imagine the colors, makes a weird shape.
Is that just because the title's white though? Like the title section?
Yes.
Like if that was the lighter gray, like the tab and the sidebar, do you think that would fit better with what you're thinking? Because then you've got like the header with the project name and the settings and the sidebar with the options
Yeah, that's a
encapsulating
good
the run
question.
that you're on, where it's all in like a lighter gray.
I've tried that, and let's try that right now to see what it looks like.
I think
Okay, that didn't work.
but partly because that's white as well, and it goes across the two sections. Like you've got the main section with the overview and the runners, and then it goes across the sidebar with the test cases and like I don't know, the because it goes over the second part, like
Hmm.
I don't understand how it fits into the sidebar of the test cases.
Wait, sorry, say that last part again.
Uh, I don't know if I'm just wording it badly. So the title bit where it says like squash commit and it's all
Hmm.
um, white, it kind of feels like it's part of the middle light gray section with the overview and the runners. And I
Oh,
don't really
hmm.
understand how it is part of the list of test cases on the right.
Yeah, I
That
think I
makes sense.
understand what you mean.
Um, I don't know how to explain it better.
No,
Um,
I think I get what you mean.
hmm,
You know what? This is helping me articulate something. Um, this is kind of a two-pane layout. Like we have this top part here, the SaturnCI, this gray bar and everything above it, and that's just like title stuff. But then we have this pane and this pane. It's like we select things on the left pane and what's on the right pane changes, just like an email client. By the way, welcome Henry and Jason. Um,
It's not Henry and Jason, it's Jeff.
oh, hey Jeff.
That's my kids have got hold of the computer again.
Got it. Well, good to see you. Um, we're working on the design of Saturn CI. So we have this two pane layout, but I don't know if the way everything is expressed really screams two pane layout. Hmm. Was it, would you guys agree maybe? Like, is it maybe not that obvious that that's
Yeah,
what the idea is?
it is not, like, so it took me a while to realize that the text on the left side is the same as the text on the right, as in the squashed commit of the following.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
perhaps, if we have the same color where the highlighting is happening on the left and the same background, where the details is, for the squashed commit, will that make the link explicit?
Well, I may be thinking about it from a little bit of a different angle. Let
Hmm.
me show something to illustrate what I'm thinking about. Okay, so let's go to the build filter. Let's make the background um like some kind of crazy color. Okay, that's very different. Okay, and then the project header. Um, okay, now the colors are very different. And now it's maybe, at least to me, it's more clear that this is distinct from this, and it's
Hmm,
distinct from this.
definitely.
Yeah. But what another thing that's true though is that this maybe doesn't feel completely unified. Because like we have this kind of like Craig was talking about, we have this white background and then this gray, and the white part feels very separate from the gray part, which in a way I want because we have these tabs and I want to be able to communicate this hierarchy, you know. This is the build we're in, and then these are various subcomponents of the build, but always the same build. Um, hmm, how do we do this? Let's see. Hmm. I'm gonna do something here. I'm gonna search for two pane layout. So far, I'm not seeing a lot that's super helpful. Because the trouble is that most designs are bad. And so it's hard to draw inspiration from other people's designs because they're no good. Um, I did see one that had a really sharp contrast. Yeah, this. I'm not saying this is visually appealing, but the contrast is unmistakable. I think that's what we want. We want an unmistakable contrast. Let's try something here. Um, build filter. Okay, we have build filter form. Wait, build list. Yeah, not filter. We want build list. Okay. Border, 3 pixels, solid, black. Let's go even starker, 8 pixels. And let's not do black, let's do red. Whoops, that's blue. Okay. The colors are getting crazy. But now that's a bit clearer that the left column is all one thing. The left pane is all one thing. Let's go to that build filter form again, and let's change the background to just white. Okay. Hmm.
You know what
Hmm.
was going through my mind? Perhaps, should we put a simple heading above the squashed commit of the following, saying build details or something like that?
Oh yeah, that could be a good idea. Um, I'm gonna hold that idea in my mind.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah,
I was thinking the grays should just get lighter. So
like
like
this
the
gray
left side
background.
gray is like a dark kind of gray, and then the head is slightly lighter, and then the overview bit's lighter again. I don't know what that would look like, but
Okay, let's see. Um, let's see what this class is, what this element is. Build overview. Okay, let's look for build overview. Let's just make it white. Okay.
so even though it's white, it still looks like it's connected to the header now.
You mean like conceptually connected?
Yeah.
Okay. By the way, this lost some of its padding. Let's bring that back since we're in the neighborhood. Um, there. Oh, now that's a problem. Okay, let's not do it like that. What is this? Test case run. Yeah, test case run. Okay, great. Okay. And now let's make this like active tab color white. Okay, tab menu. Huh. Okay. Build navigation, run navigation. Okay, let's look at those. Oh, and it has this like faint border at the bottom. Let's fix that.
Did you ever look more into your shadow thing that you were looking
No, Craig, that's your job.
at? Right, okay.
Yeah. Did you ever get that thing? Did you end up working on that anymore?
Um, it's been a while since I've looked at it, but yeah, I think I did get it working, didn't I? Let me see if I can dig that out.
Um, okay. Hmm. Okay, so this is interesting. An a, an issue that I'm feeling though is like this makes everything very noisy because everything's just white. And now there's not like contrast between the background and these. What if we make this gray instead? Oh wait, do I want to? Yeah, yeah, okay. I got to be careful. Okay, hang on. Let's just reverse these manually. Oops. Okay, background color, triple E. Wonderful. Okay. I guess that's back to normal. Now let's try to make this um gray. Build header, I guess that's what it is. Okay. I don't positively hate that. I do feel like we've lost something because when it's white, we have this very clear contrast between this and this. But then when it's gray, we lose that contrast.
But it does feel more connected, at least to me.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm the only one, but
And that's where the shadow and such comes into play. Like iPhone flat versus skeuomorphic. Again, like these 3D buttons have so much more contrast than the flat ones. The flat is just a fucking jumble. It's really the worst. It's really just terrible. It's like classic versus modern architecture. Yeah, like look at this. The world has really gone to shit, you guys. Like the old the classic architecture is driven by objective principles. The buildings are more ornate, but they're not more ornate in just any old way. They're ornate in conformity with principles of objective beauty. And some people who think they're really fucking cool decided to reject the classical principles and go with this movement called modernism. And it's just a real tragedy in the story of the culture of humanity. And so, to me, my hypothesis is that we took this same exact idea where we rejected classical architecture and we replaced it with modern architecture. We took that same idea and we applied it to, mm, I was going to say web design, but this isn't a web page. We applied it just to visual design in general, I guess you would say. Yeah, like look at this. People think this is better. Like it's so awful. So awful. Okay. Anyway, all that is to say, that's why I'm interested in like shadows and a 3D appearance for these because I think that might do the job that a color contrast is not doing right now.
well, that's why I was suggesting going lighter in color. So they're the same color at the moment, and before
Hmm.
the hierarchy was like reverse of what I'm saying because it was white and then white and
Mm,
then gray. Whereas if
I
it's
think
like
I
a
see what
darker
you're
gray and
saying.
then a lighter gray,
All
because
right.
then it still has that like hierarchy because it's darker, but it
So
still has that connection because it's the same color, like the gray.
this will surely be more extreme than your meaning, but like, that makes it darker.
Yeah. So you had the darker color of like where you've got the light sky blue thing now,
Hmm.
and then down the side you had like a darker gray. And then if where you've put the dark gray now, the header was like lighter than that. And then the actual build was lighter again. Like you still have that gray look that you wanted, but it still has the hierarchy because of the dark shades. But then the darkness is like the higher level, if that makes sense.
I think I'm catching most of that. Um, what troubles me about making this header darker is, well, and to be fair, I don't think you were advocating like a super dark color like this necessarily.
No.
Um, yeah, when it's at least this dark, it carries a lot of visual weight,
Mm.
maybe beyond what's appropriate. Let's make it a bit lighter and see how that looks. Okay. And that obviously is the same color that these tabs were. So let's address that.
I think that's better than the white though, personally.
I withhold judgment. Okay. Run navigation, tabs, CSS. Okay. So, oh yeah, here we go. Okay. Now there's some contrast there. Okay. I think these pages look weird now, but that's not a huge concern of mine because this is kind of the main page anyway. We can just focus on this for the moment.
hmm What if you put the sidebar and the header back as well?
Oh, like put this back to the way it was and the top bar
Yeah.
too.
hmm
Um, well, I certainly want to change it from the crazy way they are now, but I don't know if the way that they were was good.
It might emphasize the design I was suggesting a bit more though. So you can
Hmm,
get
what do you mean?
the whole visual.
Hmm, I'm not sure I follow. Um, well, I'll put some of the stuff back and then maybe we can I suspect that it'll be really bad, but I could be wrong. That's maybe not the right color. I don't remember what color it was exactly. It was not that either. Um, but I'm going to go to the build filter and I'll get rid of this crazy border. No, sorry, it was build list. And I'll get rid of this crazy border. Yeah, this looks bad. It looks like noisy again. What's interesting is if I give this crazy border and then maybe I go to build and give it a crazy border too. What is gained here, even though this isn't like the design we're going to want to go with, what I do like about these borders is that it makes it very clear that we have a two-pane layout.
That makes a separation clear, I have to say.
Mm-hmm. Hmm. I'm going to try something. Okay, so kill that border, and this becomes border right. Hmm. Interesting. Obviously, that looks terrible, um, but there's still a pretty clear separation. And let's do this even. This project CSS. Let's get rid of this border because I don't know if this border serves a very functional purpose. And in fact, maybe it shouldn't even have a background color. Maybe it's this very top one that should have a background color. Interesting. Hmm. That's too dark though, makes it too prominent. Okay, great. Now it's just subtle, you don't have to notice it. Hmm. And I'm actually going to change this back. The build header. Um, what was that even called? I don't remember. Oh, build. The build header is called build header. That makes sense. Okay. I'm not terribly happy about that because now it loses something. Now we can't see that this is all like one thing. Let's try something here. Project header. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Now, this is a very plainly clear two-pane layout. By the way, we're at time, but I'm going to keep going at least a bit. Two-pane layout is abundantly clear now. Um, this right area is like too many different colors. First of all, I'm going to fix these tab colors. Forget where this was. Okay. Hmm. What if the entire build list is like dark? Darker. Oops. Okay, that didn't do the whole thing. I think we need the build filter form to not have a background color. Hmm. Okay. The build filter form, let's make that EEE again. And let's make the build list um will just naturally be white. Yeah. Hmm. So now we're back almost to where we started. And in the future, this build filter form will be collapsible. So what if we actually just say like display none for the moment? Yeah, because the build filter form, it'll be like completely hideable basically. Hmm. Okay, and what if we change this border from like this crazy obnoxious red to something more reasonable? Okay, that still looks pretty bad. That still looks pretty bad. Okay. What if we make it a lighter gray? Hmm. No, that's no good. Okay, but what if we lose, not lose the top border, but what if we take that top border and make it like way smaller and darker? Okay, now there's at least a delineation between this project indicator and this rest of the page. Um, man, this is a difficult problem, or at least it's a difficult problem for me. Hmm. And now we're back like almost to where we started, and I don't feel much better about where things are. Okay, maybe this project header needs to be a gray color. Okay, and then the like global header can be a little more gray. I don't love that. I like that even less. Okay, but now maybe we can do away with this bottom border. Interesting. Actually, I feel like the bottom border is helpful, but maybe it should be bigger and it should be lighter.
This is getting a bit closer to what I was saying about the darker shades going into the project.
Oh yeah.
Hmm.
Hmm. This is interesting. Man, it's just so noisy. Is there a way to make it less noisy? I feel like part of the noise is like all the red and stuff.
Would that be more subtle?
Yeah. There's a lot of information that you're showing.
Right. Hmm.
Sorry to ask, what is there any information that you don't need, at least right away?
I don't think so. Because like, well, basically the whole point is rarely are you interested in a past build. You're only interested in failures. And when something fails, you want to see the error message and the stack trace. And you should conveniently be able to see what tests failed and you should be able to move among them. So I feel like all this is necessary. Okay, let's step back a second. I'm going to bring back this build filter. Okay. And if I stash everything we've changed, or did we make a commit? Yeah, we did make a commit. Okay. Okay, if I go back to main, actually, let me do this. Hmm, how do we feel about the difference? Are there any ways in which the new one is better than the old one? Or is it possible that the new one is just completely better than the old one, period?
I think the new one's better.
I'm inclined to agree.
Yeah, I think the new one is definitely better than the older one.
Hmm.
I'm still drawn to the blue of the selected build, though.
As in, it grabs your attention. Is that what you mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure that that's a bad thing.
fair enough. But you said about you don't really care about pass builds and you want to focus more on failed builds. Like, could you
Mhm.
just make the pass and failed, I don't know, instead of like a background, like a border or something like that? So it's a bit more subtle.
Yeah, that might be a good idea. Yeah, I'll think about that. Um, but I
Also,
think these,
blue and
uh-huh.
red together for me is terrible. That's just my eyes, though.
Sorry, the what and red together?
Blue and red. You know, you've
Oh,
got the
oh
failed
yeah,
red, selected blue.
I agree. It's fairly awful.
Like I have
Okay.
this thing with purple where like blue and red like just separates for me. Like it's weird.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too. Okay. Well, even if we didn't make as much progress as I hoped, I think we did make more than zero progress. Um, yeah, and I hope not that this is necessarily news to everybody, but like I hope that I helped convey that like design is about solving a problem and like it's not just like arbitrary artistic decisions. There's like again such a thing as objective objective beauty, and I also didn't really talk about this, but there's like multiple layers to design. There's like there's what you might call the beauty layer of it, but there's also like the functional layer of it. And I think there's objective principles for both. There's objective beauty, and then there are things that are objectively more functional than others.
Yeah.
And it's a problem to be worked through, just like a programming problem is a problem to be worked with. Um, okay. Thank you for joining me, everyone, and I'll see you next time.
So yeah.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Jason.